Hi everyone, thanks for joining me. Today I'm going to share some information with you on an old bait manufacturer that has put out a new bait. We're going to be talking about the Yamamoto Slinko floating worm today. And I'll tell you, this is a really good worm. This is no gimmick. You know, I had to buy one just because I buy anything that comes out by Yamamoto. I don't like spending Yamamoto prices, but I like catching Yamamoto style fish. So this worm is a complete floating worm. This is what it looks like. It's 5.5 inches. Comes in some really great colors. I've been using the black and blue flake out here and doing real well with it in the last couple weeks here on the California Delta. So it's a ringworm. It's got an oddball looking egg sac here, and it's got an oddball looking head. 100% floater. If you throw these out, they're just going to float right on top. So you have to weight them Nico style, or you know, if you want to get them down more than a few inches, you're going to have to put some kind of weight on these worms. So if you're fishing 6 inches to 1.5 feet of water, throwing them way up into heavy cover like we have here on the Delta, and there's fish under down tulies and things like that, you can throw these totally weightless with a inline worm hook or an extra wide gap hook. With that hook, it may drop this worm down a couple inches underwater, so you can kind of throw it over down tulies and things and let it drop into pockets. But primarily what I've been doing is rigging these things wacky style with a nail weight in the head. And just like a standard Slinko, you guys know how these things fall. They just have generally falling like this, and they just have that perfect fall. Well, when you rig these with a nail weight in the head, they're going to fall head first, obviously, like this. But you can adjust the weight of the nail that you have in the head so that worm, if you're fishing maybe 2 to 3 feet of water, it drops to the bottom very slowly, and it just moves like this. Once it gets to the bottom, you're going to hop it down the bottom. If you're fishing out 6 or 8 feet deep, you put a little more weight in the head, and it's going to drop a little faster to get down to the bottom. That's going to be a day-to-day decision. But let me show you how I rig these worms, and I think if you rig them exactly like I'm talking about today, which is a pretty standard style rig, you're going to catch a lot of fish. So what you're going to need today is I use the Gamakatsu finesse hook with the titanium weed guard. These are expensive, but they are the best hook that I know when you're fishing cover. This is what the hook looks like here. They've got these little titanium weed guards on them. They're going to break off, believe me. Everybody's mad about that. When they're on there and working, they're the most weedless style of weed guard that I have found. They just they're a lot less bothersome. Now, I will, from the start, put a little drop of cement or Gorilla Glue or something on here, just to keep these things intact a little bit more. If they break off, you basically use them for a non-weedless or a hook. But this is the way I'm using them. So you'll need yourself a wacky style hook. Either O-rings or wacky saddles. I've got the black O-ring here and a frenzy bait wacky saddle. This is the one I suggest. We'll go over how I'm rigging that in just a minute. And you'll need some nail weights. Just any standard nail weight will do. I like the Lunker City nail weights. They're called an insert weight. They're reasonably priced, and they're nice. This, I believe I've already broken this one off a little bit. They've got a nice point on one end here so that you can insert them. And the nice thing about these weights here is that you can break them up. So if you only need this much weight, you stick that in there and you break it off. If you need the full weight, you stick it in there. And again, if you're fishing 2 or 3 feet of water, you may only need this much weight in the head. If you're fishing a little deeper, you may need the whole weight in the head. So how are we going to rig these up? Standard wacky style rig. You're going to need an O-ring tool. The wacky saddle is on this right now, and the reason that I like this wacky saddle, I'm going to demonstrate to you right now. All right, so the way that I rig this, and I'm just going to demonstrate, we've got an O-ring tool here, and I've got this wacky saddle on the O-ring, getting ready to put it on the worm. But for demonstration purposes, most people will take this and they'll run the hook into the saddle part of this. What I do is I run the hook through both of these O-rings. Now why I do that is because once I get this on here like this and I get a bite and I'm pulling this saddle helps to protect the worm. Now if I am pulling it through here, if I've got it rigged through the saddle part and I jerk on this, these O-rings or the ring around it is going to basically rip the worm in half. So that's the way that I rig these wacky saddles. I've got good hookup rates on them, everything else. So how do we do this? We put it on an O-ring tool. You put the worm over the O-ring and you pull this down, and I've already got this O-ring all hooked up. You can see the saddle's on the back of it, and I've got the worm hooked up here, and I always want, or excuse me, got the hook hooked into it. I always want my hook up. Now remember, this is the head, and what I've already done is I've taken a nail weight and I've poked it into the head of the worm so that it's going to fall like this. As it's falling, I want my hook point up so that it falls like this. I don't want the, if it was falling this way, I don't want that hook down. I want it up. Again, you got to adjust the amount of weight by breaking off your nail weight to the weight that you're going to need on that particular day. As you cast this out, you're going to pitch it out, and this thing is going to just fall this way, and it's going to just undulate down very slowly. It's going to come down like this, and as soon as it hits the bottom, it's not going to get buried in the vegetation. This is always going to float like this. So as you're pulling it back, you're basically just pulling this along the bottom, and it's almost like a Ned rig. These fish out here pick it up, and it can be just a tap, it can be a swim off bite, or they can just come up and nail it. One of the other things I like about this ringed worm is it holds scent very well. I use the Megabass Mega Gel or Mega Strike, and with that combination, man, it's a killer. If you happen to break these worms up, remember they're floaters, so if you get the back part of it or the front part, you can use this for a Ned worm, and they are really great. You know, they should make these as a Ned worm themselves, so you can get a little bit more play out of worm even when it gets torn up and it falls apart in your boat. Use these for different purposes. I tend to throw these on a I'll say a 6'10" to 7'2" medium heavy rod that I can pitch with. Standard 200 reel, whatever you're using. I use about 55-pound braid with about 4 to 6 feet of anywhere from 12 to 18-pound leader, and that gives me, you know, the ability to, if I'm fishing finesse, I can drop down to 10 or 12-pound test and work it on the outside of cover and stuff. If I hook something up, it's going to be a fun fight. If I need to go heavy, I will you know, use 18-pound test or something, pitch it in, maybe have it drop in between toolies and stuff that's in more heavy cover. I still have a good chance of pulling those fish out. So that's all it is, guys. Really good bait. Give it a try. Again, it's the Yamamoto Slinko floater. Is that what they're calling it? Yeah, Slinko floater. These are not a gimmick. They catch fish, and I think they're going to be a killer out here on the Delta. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe, hit the like button, and until the next video, I'll see you guys on the water. Good luck.